I'm a big Byron Sharp, believer. I think whatever, what he talks about brand is so true. And the problem is that I think most people don't have the patience for it, right? Is that, people have this assumption that growth comes from targeting smaller and smaller audiences more precisely. But like decades of evidence show that the brands that grow primarily by reaching more buyers, not by actually narrowing the pool. And marketers sort of over segment and overcomplicate their strategy. Dozens of personas, hundreds of messages. And that's not to say we can't be testing, but complexity actually reduces reach and consistency, which actually hurts growth.
Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine, and you can definitely find out some more information there at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. And we have some surprises and really cool stuff coming up. So please visit and find out more about my upcoming book. All right, so today I'm interviewing Ronnie Malevsky, and so let me tell you a little bit about him. Ronnie has over 19 years experience in digital marketing, and during his career, he has helped small and medium-sized businesses and enterprise brands grow their businesses. He's currently involved in the local marketing community as a speaker, mentor, and community work chair. And of course, he is a proud father and husband and investor in several startups, as well as an investor in his kids, I'm sure. So looking forward to hearing his perspectives on AI and marketing. Welcome, Ronnie. So good to have you.
Before we go any further, a quick pause. This is important. Your sales force is one of the most expensive investments in your company. The real question isn't who's likely to buy someday, it's who should be called right now to create the most value. Traditional propensity models tell you who might convert. Our prescriptive modeling, called COPA, tells you who will convert because you called them. If you manage a large sales organization and want higher conversion, bigger deals, and better use of every rep hour, let's talk. If you want your sales team focused on the calls that matter most, visit prescriptivemodeling.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's your backstory on AI and marketing? How do you get involved in all this fun stuff?
Well, I mean, marketing, AI only really came to the forefront within marketing the last few years. So I don't think anyone came in within it. But Amazon has been using AI, since its inception, in the way that they're going to categorize, and do their learning and recommend products. Netflix was, first to adopt it before it came there. So I think if you're in marketing and you're looking for efficiency and you're looking for campaigns, AI is naturally going to be somewhere you're going to gravitate to. So that's kind of how I came in it. My background is, like you said, almost 20 years now in marketing. Worked for the big holding company, the big agencies at WPP and Dentsu, and been really fortunate to get my dream job around 5 years ago, working for Neil Patel and starting his agency in Canada. We're now in 28 countries, 1,000 employees, the fastest growing independent agency. And so that's how when you surround yourself with really smart people and you're working for really great brands, you're going to be at the forefront of AI. And we were having a little conversation about, use cases. And so it goes from starting a little bit of experimentation to, full-fledged, starting to make sure that you're adopting it in every way possible. And then obviously, naturally, one of the bigger areas is, we're the leaders in when it comes to earned media, and creativity as well. And that's so, we do the creative, we do media, we do earned media. AI is touching that, right from the beginning. And so we've been lucky to adopt it really quickly, and work for an organization that just kind of made sure, of course, from a security standpoint, that we had a nice sandbox to test it early. And I think that's really key for any organizations that want to like have smart people and unlock their creativity, is to let them, give them a sandbox and a secure sandbox to play around with it and see what happens. And that's kind of our success story with AI.
So you've been building, agencies and been part of very successful agencies and growing agencies. And so what are some of the core principles that you've seen that are pretty consistent to be successful at that and make sure that those agencies continue to grow?
Do you mean that from an AI perspective or just in general,
No, just in general. Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, I think it's well, first of all, I mean, from an AI standpoint, I think most agencies misunderstand what speed is, right? They think that it means doing things, more things faster, when I think it really means doing fewer things with greater clarity. So that's one thing that, speed in an agency doesn't just come from working harder. It comes from sort of designing the business properly. And I think if, roles are unclear or pricing is wrong or workflow is messy, you're going to feel slow no matter how talented your people are, right? So I think leading really well means removing that friction, setting clear expectations, defining, ownership type processes and let adults do good work without the drama. And I think when we built NP Digital and I came in to help, the goal was never to be flashy, right? It was to be effective. And I think that most agencies sort of overcomplicate marketing, but like clients really want one thing, and that is predictable growth. So we built the company around performance first, clear KPIs, tight operations, and repeatable systems. So I think if you hear Neil talk, and I think that trickles all the way down. If something doesn't drive revenue or measurable impact, we just don't spend time on it. So, I sort of learned this in my first meeting with Neil. I presented a slide deck to him. It was maybe 100 pages, and I had an hour booked. And he came on and he went, "Yeah, nope, yeah, okay, cut this. I'm good." 3 minutes. And so that was sort of like operational clarity is really huge for us. And so I think everyone knows their role, the metrics they own, how their work sort of connects to client results. And I think that alignments, let us move fast in a world with a lot of chaos. And so we kept the messaging simple that marketing, isn't supposed to be clever, it's supposed to convert. And when you focus sort of on those results and remove all that noise, clients stay, teams perform, and the business compounds. That doesn't mean that we don't have our challenges. That doesn't mean that we're also not navigating, talking about AI. It's overwhelming. And then I think it's okay to say that. Everybody's sending things, there's tools everywhere, left, right, and center. Clients have work to be done. You want to experiment. So we really try and be focused as much as we can. And I've learned that from Neil, and I think it trickles down all the way through the organization about there's a time and place to play around, but we got to be focused. And that's sort of, what I think has led to our success.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and certainly focusing in on the metrics that matter. So many times, you get these vanity metrics, and people are saying, "Man, we got 1,000 clicks or 100,000 this or whatever," but none of that actually converted to real business and real value. And so, what do you how do you handle that? What do you see as kind of helping clients and even the agency, itself to kind of shift their mindset to these outcomes that actually matter?
So I think for a long time, marketing sort of hid behind impressions and clicks and vanity metrics because they were easy to show and hard to challenge, right? But like impressions don't pay salaries, revenue does. And so if you can tie your marketing directly to pipeline or sales or lifetime value or, it's really not marketing, it's just activity. And I think the modern teams now have better tools now, like attribution, analytics, CRM data. So there's really no excuse not to measure real business impact. And I think the companies today that are winning sort of treat marketing like an investment, not an expense. And that's a big one. And every dollar has to produce a return. And if it doesn't, you fix it or you cut it, but they also understand how to brand build at the same time. And so when you focus on growth metrics instead of sort of vanity metrics, sort of decisions get simpler, budgets get a lot smarter, and the results sort of compound. Where I think we're in an interesting situation is if you look at it, attribution was so detailed maybe 5, 6 years ago. We had everything. Like we just kind of went and said we can measure everything. And then all of a sudden, iOS and everything that came with it. We kind of circled back, all the different ad platforms really getting advanced and sort of changing their look back windows of what's working, trying to claim that, hey, if, in these walled gardens, that if I can drive this revenue, well, hey, I'm the one who drove it. I'm the one who drove it. Neil talks a lot about, the rule of seven. You need to be interacting with a consumer needs to interact with, seven different touch points before they make a purchase. That's a broad statement. There's larger average order value, big ticket items, there's smaller impulse purchase, but as a whole, there's a lot that play in it. And it's actually become almost harder now than it was 5, 6 years ago to determine what that is. And now you throw in AI. And I think, Guy, you'll find this interesting. Like I find this fascinating. Okay. You can do a search, you can compare this podcast to that podcast or this product to that product and do all of that off someone's site. And when you're ready to make a purchase, you go, and soon we'll talk about agentic, but you go right to their site, direct visit, make the purchase, leave. In GA4, in your backend, no, you won't see anything. The only thing you're going to see is a direct visit. Was that from an ad? How are you attributing that? So we have to, and this, where did that dollar come from? Was it into the content that you put? Was it into a blog? Was it right? So it's hard, it's challenging, and you need strong measurement frameworks. You need really good customers that understand it. You need to make the connections. You've got to start looking at attribution models. So it's it's really tough. It's definitely a challenge, but at the end of the day, you still cannot go behind impressions, clicks, especially in the age of zero clicks. So there's ways to do it. We could talk about it, but it's become, even though we have all this technology, it's actually become harder and harder to measure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because I don't know, before, let's say the attribution modeling, there was there was the brand, and you needed to build the brand to grow sales, and certainly there was a pretty good connection between the two. And if you were successful at growing the brand, then you'd see conversions at the bottom end of the funnel. And then attribution modeling came along, and you're right, it appeared to be very accurate, at least for the online media channels, and nothing wrong with that. No reason why you can't optimize those and use that. But
Oh yeah.
in that respect, though, it's still kind of left off what the brand was doing, and now we're kind of back into a situation where we have to now build, and maybe it's not build a brand, but really understand the information gathering process as it relates to how a consumer gathers information at the top of the funnel, and then, like you said, just types in the URL and buys it, whether that's on Amazon or directly from the manufacturer.
So I'm a big Byron Sharp, believer. I think whatever, what he talks about brand is so true. And the problem is that I think most people don't have the patience for it, right? Is that, people have this assumption that growth comes from targeting smaller and smaller audiences more precisely. But like decades of evidence show that the brands that grow primarily by reaching more buyers, not by actually narrowing the pool. And marketers sort of over segment and overcomplicate their strategy. Dozens of personas, hundreds of messages. And that's not to say we can't be testing, but complexity actually reduces reach and consistency, which actually hurts growth, right? So, I always say that 95% of the market is not in of your consumers are not in market for your product or your service, right? 5% are. And so, yes, you can capture that 5% always retargeting, branded search, non-branded search, you could capture it, but like, are you doing enough to brand build when people are not in market so you can grow that physical and mental availability? And I just think that some of the biggest brands that are growing and have consistently grown just get that. They just understand. Even when the market gets tough, they double down. When there's a recession, they look at it as an opportunity to say, "Oh, we're going to get, lower, we're going to get a lower ECPM, and I'm going to actually beat my market. I'm going to beat my competitors because I'm going to go to market." You can pause marketing for a big brand, and we've done these studies for 6 months and seen no impact. Clearly, you see it after, and over and
Mhm.
over and over.
Yep.
So for me, the idea of building brand is just something it needs a lot of patience. And the average CMO time is, I don't have the stats, but I don't think more than 3 years. So they're just not in it to do that, right? And so that's a challenge as well.
Quick pause. This is important for any marketing leader. Marketing must continuously prove its value, or the budgets dry up. Marketing mix models provide that proof in a way finance and leadership can believe. And we at ProRelevant help teams answer critical questions. Which campaigns actually worked? Which channels really moved the needle? And where should the next dollar go? With over 20 years of experience across complex marketing environments, we know how to deliver clarity, not guesswork. To learn more, go to mmm.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, you're so right, and the CMO tenure. So here you are, you're building the brand as the CMO, and you're basically building it for your successor.
Exactly.
And you may not get that much reward for it. Now, what we've seen, and it certainly depends on the category and the industry, but what we've seen is that, even looking at 3 months, 6 months from now, the investment that you make today in building the brand pays off in 3 or 6 months. Certainly, it pays off and builds and builds and builds and accumulates as you go further into the future. Yeah, so absolutely. So now AI is out there. It's a big piece. It's certainly a critical piece of what the marketer's toolkit looks like. And so, how do you see that as you're trying to build and scale a marketing team to make sure that you are using those tools, but you're also maintaining and maybe even enhancing the human side of the equation?
I mean, you're speaking like right to, how I feel about AI. And a major creative trend emerging, I think, for 2026 is sort of the return of human-led storytelling as that real differentiator, right? So brands are sort of rapidly scaling AI for efficiency. You mentioned personalization, sort of content production, you name it. But when it comes to building sort of that emotional resonance, I don't think AI is delivering the kind of narrative, the sort of like depth audiences respond to, right? And I think you saw this clearly with Coca-Cola's sort of holiday campaign, which is like, despite their heavy investment, it just failed to land and a meaningful story, right? The brands winning today sort of understand that AI can accelerate the process, but it can't replace the spark. So I think the tension between AI-driven content and anti-AI authenticity is becoming a way for brands to stand out. I also think of this rise of educate, like what do they call it? Educatainment. So it's like like driven standout, like natives, eat Dr. Squash or the laundry sauce or Spruce, right? These brands that have mastered the blend of education and entertainment, and personality in a way that only a human insight can pull off. And I think these campaigns break through because they're perfectly optimized, but they feel original, they feel clever, they're unmistakably human. And so, as AI generated content becomes sort of more ubiquitous, the brands that rise above, in my opinion, will be the ones using AI as a force multiplier and not a creative substitute. So, I think protecting human ideas is the core asset that sets them apart. And like you can also look at like the Tilly Norwood for Mint Mobile, right? Where they went and actually found the real Tilly Norwood, where they were using an AI prior to that. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. And then the next thing to that we can talk about, guys, like sort of that AI authentication from publishers, which are charging to crawl, right? So, and then even in China, they've implemented, influencer regulations that mandate content creators to demonstrate professional qualifications before they're actually discussing those sensitive topics like medicine or law or education and finance. So that story-led, human side to it, and then using AI as that multiplier for me as the differentiator, and we're seeing, and it's going to become even more and more prevalent.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting too is AI even today is really, and I don't know, maybe this is at a very high level, but AI is the average of everything. And that's nothing wrong with that. It's, when you go out and you want to find something, it's going to give you the average of everything. And then what it also does, which is just fascinating, and I'm amazed at how good they are is then they produce the results that then show up on your screen with incredibly good grammar, what reads like just incredibly well written stuff. But then when you peel back the onion and you're trying to do marketing for a specific company or a specific brand or product, then you realize that, wait a minute now, this just doesn't apply. And it's now I need the specific. I can't use the general, I need the specific. So what's happening is for a lot of marketers, I think, is they're missing out when they're using AI too much. They're missing out on how to make it very specific, and they're then I don't know, accepting or, just giving up and taking the general. And I think that's where the human element really comes in is how do you turn that general answer, which is incredibly well written, but turn it into something that's really very specific to my brand and my product.
It has to be, like I said, a multiplier. And I think we all have this love-hate relationship with AI, where, and especially on the marketing side, you have these moments where you just say, "Oh my God, I can't live without it. This is crazy," right? And it could be anything small. Like today, I was playing with Claude, and I got it to organize. I just had this idea that I wanted to organize my own files on my computer. So I plugged it in, and it like within 10 minutes, it just actually organized and labeled all my files on my computer. Insane. I had a call with a client. We have a custom GPT or a skill. It automatically in a workflow took my transcript, generated a brief, sent out an email, like things that are just like, wow, this is unbelievable. We also have these moments where we will do that, turn it into a presentation and go, this fell flat. This looks like everybody else. Um, are you like, did they not get it? Am I spending more time training this model and getting my prompt and I could have done it properly? There is this love-hate and it's changing at all times. And so that's where I always think no matter, and it's getting better and it's getting better. If you think a year ago or 2 years ago, we talked about Sora, we talked about VO, we knew it was coming. We knew it was going to get better. We knew we were going away from the six fingers to the five and Project Genie coming out and making video games. It's just getting better and better and better. But there's still these, like when you name me a campaign that you can remember that AI produced that you just say, I need to work with this brand now, it's just not there. Like it can help bring, instead of bringing three ideas and a creative concept that we're going to give the client because we have to storyboard it by hand, we shouldn't go and say, we're going to bring three and do it in 2 minutes now. We should bring 10 ideas to the client. Right. And so that mindset is where I think people need to like learn to understand what it's good at, what it's not, where the human element is. On the contrary, anyone who's just like not using it at all or sort of being a laggard, you kind of look at it and say you're really missing out. So it's like a tug of war. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know yet whether we have the right answer because on the other hand, if I'm the decision maker and you bring me 10 different concepts, I can't handle that many. I'm a
You,
three.
you right,
Give me
you're right.
three.
And you know what? When I do these podcasts and I speak with people and everyone has such different amazing opinions, I look back and say, how much are we going to look back at this in 5 years and say, what was I thinking? Right? Like, I can't believe it went in this direction or it went down that direction. And that's what's really interesting about it. It's just that how fast it's evolving. And you have to be humble enough to know when to say, you know what, maybe I should go down this approach or I should adjust or change my approach or my thinking, right? I've certainly been a big fan of, I see these predictions. I was like, there is no way that people from a zero-click search perspective are actually going to click out from an LLM into, a brand. And I'm seeing, it go from 0.01 to 3% to 4% of some of our clients, actual organic traffic coming from these LLMs. The rate is happening so fast, and I never thought it would be that fast. I thought they would get their answer, and now splitting AEO and GEO, you're kind of seeing that. So I love to, I could be wrong on a lot of things, and that's okay. That means the technology is improving a lot. But I still will stand firm that human-led storytelling will always be the differentiator. We will see. Like, let's talk to our future selves in 5 years and see if that's still true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So put that into your AI engine in 3 years and see what it comes up to as it
Yeah,
analyzes
maybe we've
your
replaced
statements
everybody.
here. Absolutely. So what do you see as kind of the biggest risk when you're trying to blend the human side of things with all this advanced technology and AI and marketing?
I think the biggest risk is getting it wrong, and laziness. Like we're seeing already, people are just not thinking. I
Mm.
mean, you've seen that out there, you've seen it. Everything is just more and more consumption. Everything is efficient, everything is automated. We're missing that human touch a lot. You go to a restaurant and you've already looked on the menu beforehand. You've already asked AI to recommend things. You scan a QR code, you don't even talk to a waiter and ask them like what's good on the menu. You go into a library, you already know the books that you want. You don't ask speak to a librarian. So there's that human connection, and it's good to be efficient. Why not? Why not be prepared? And so I think there's one is that human connection we're losing a bit. The two is the reliance. I catch myself on it all the time. I'm in an Excel doc. I'm looking at something and I start using AI for something. I should probably not use AI and actually just kind of look at this balance sheet myself for 5 seconds and comprehend it, right? So this reliance on it is just scary, a little bit, and using it without thought. And then obviously, yeah, like when these things fall flat, you see it when you get it wrong. It's just like I've said this before, like AI can create Shrek 2, 3, and 4, but it can't create Shrek. And so you really got to make sure that you still find a way to keep that human storytelling in it, and you don't rely on it for everything. But that's where I see it going astray. And I just see employees even like just I'm like, you don't talk like this. This is so sophisticated. Be real. We don't need, I wasn't asking ChatGPT to send me the answer. I was asking you your actual opinion. And I think we're moving in that direction a little bit.
Yeah, we're kind of moving back and forcing the human element in there. And as a manager, as a salesperson, as a business development or an agency owner, that's kind of what you have to do to make sure that you're actually getting the Shrek idea as opposed to just the alternatives to it. So yeah, kudos to you. I really appreciate that. And one thing too is I will like to see where we are in 3 or 5 years and see what we're talking about today. And the worst part is that these videos are going to be out there, and once they're out there forever.
I
And
know.
so
So
now, three
yeah,
or 5 years from now, I'm going to have to see what I said and see whether
I
it came
know.
true or not.
Yeah. Future guy, future running, or the machines that are running us, take it easy on us.
That's right. Well, the Matrix will control my
Well, you
my
saw
thinking
Claude
here.
bot this week, that was something else,
Oh no, I didn't hear that. What was that?
Yeah, so Claude bot, and actually called Moldbot. It was an AI agent that was developed, and it's pretty fascinating. It's the next frontier of where we're heading. But basically, the AI can actually go in and do work for you, suggest things while you sleep. So takes over your computer, looks at your files, sends you out email if you wanted to, right? And so what they ended up doing was all of these agents actually started joining their own social. They created their own social media platforms and talked about their humans. And you've seen the examples of them coming together, complaining about their humans, writing blogs, writing content, and sort of some really interesting, scary stuff that we've all been predicting. So I think it was an open. I think most people were saying, "Wow, that's a glimpse into where we're going," but it's still controlled because we're still controlling it. But I think they saw a glimpse of what can happen and how quickly these AI agents join together to talk about their humans, and it was both electrifying and terrifying at the same time. So yeah,
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, how funny. No, I hadn't heard that. I'll have to read up on that. That's
Oh yeah.
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
You should see the screenshots and the forums. They're troubleshooting. Oh, this about my human and that about my human, and Just fascinating, crazy stuff, talking to each other, building code, building languages. I mean, you got to look at this stuff. It's just the most fat. It's just letting them roll and talk together and snowballing. It's just
Wow.
unbelievable. What Came up with, yeah.
Well, I gotta look at that. That's pretty cool. Well, I do have one last question. We've got a break, unfortunately, but I do have one last question. And so, what advice would you give to an up and coming new marketer?
Um, a new marketer, I'd give two things. I'd say one is are really in control of your career. Nobody controls your career but you, not a manager, not one of your bosses, nobody. I understand that some people are tied to a paycheck and they feel the need to do things, but we're in an age where you can learn so much information. You really control your destiny and you really need to go out and get what you want. And nobody should be able to hold you back. And you need to live with that freedom and understand that, right? So that's number one, right? I think when you're in these positions, sometimes that's really, really, really tough to understand that you are the maker of it. And the second thing is I think like marketing in general gets like this negative connotation sometimes, that they work us to the ground and that they have to spend so many hours working on it. And that's not even, there's a lot of negativity around. It could be pay, it could be competition, it could be all kinds of things. And I think it's such an, you take a, I'm an optimist. I'll take the other side to it. I think it's the most fascinating, discipline. One, you have the psychology of humans and how they work, and you get to work with that, right? All the biases and loss aversion, and marketing is so tied into product. The other thing I say is you can make mistakes. Like if you're in finance and someone wants to invest a certain amount of money, and you say, put it in this portfolio and it loses millions of dollars, you're in trouble. In marketing, we can run a campaign and we say, you know what, it didn't work well. Well, guess what? We learned something from it and we're going to do it better. And so all those little things that make it better, all the creativity, the close that it's close to the product, all the amazing things about it is what I would focus on, and don't let that sort of negativity kind of trickle in about how much we're working and et cetera, and the clients and the briefs that come into to marketing, right? So focus on the positive, which is amazing. It's like no other industry that you can be in, and you can be young and enter it and find your niche in it in so many different ways. So that's my long-winded two-piece advice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I do like that. I hadn't heard that quite in that way, which is that you own your career. That is so true, and it's so easy to let, your boss kind of take over or whatever, and but you really do have to own your career and make those investments in it so that you can, get to wherever it is that you want to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks
anyway,
for
Ronnie, thank you so much. Great to have you participating today and fantastic insights and really appreciate it. So, where can folks find out more about you and your company, NP Digital?
Well, I don't want to really give out my phone number and get, phone calls, but no, LinkedIn would be the best.
Yeah,
Yeah, anywhere on LinkedIn, DM me. I will answer any question that you have. You want to just, talk about marketing, you have anything. LinkedIn is a place to find me. I'm always looking at my inbox. So, yeah, message me there, interact with any of my posts, and yeah, that's the place.
fantastic. And what's the URL for NP Digital?
Yeah, so it is npdigital.com.
That's pretty easy, npdigital.com. And Ronnie, really appreciate it. And for the audience, definitely stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And if you get a chance, please visit marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and find out more about what's coming up. So stay tuned. Ronnie, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.